You sound like a professional sommelier.
Sure. Yeah, I'm a sommelier. I'm a sommelier.
So this is utter garbage. Can you please take it back and get
Yeah, we'll get you some more. Let me see it. Let me see a cup there. Let's see here. Let me take that back. Here, I got you some fresh.
Welcome back to Arsenic Culture, where beer don't count but bad decisions do. I'm Matt.
I'm Jason.
And we're going to drink some wine today. You ever had wine in your entire life?
No.
Ever?
Yes. No.
Dude, for as much as we fucking drink,
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy that we don't ever drink wine because it's like probably the most popular alcoholic beverage in the entire world.
I've tried to get into it a few times. It's not my... I like red more than white usually.
I agree.
Yeah, but I just like if I'm at home and getting a steak dinner, I might, like if I make steak at home, I might want a red wine, but rarely will I drink it.
Dude, when we were like a little bit younger and like, you know, me and Kendra first started dating, I remember we would go out to a restaurant and it was like normal to just like get a glass of wine with dinner. And I did that. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was ordering. Like I would just scroll through the list and it's like, you know,
You don't want the cheapest, but you don't want you like somewhere a little bit above.
Right,
Yeah.
And you don't want to offend like the waiter. And I had no idea what each one was, so I'd find something that was right in the middle and they had like a cool looking name, and I'd be like, "Give me a glass of that or a bottle of that or something." Thought I was highfalutin, you know. But
I love when they come by and pour you a little bit. Try it. I'm like, I don't fucking know. I guess it's pretty good.
They go like over their arm with the towel on it.
Yeah,
and they pour you like an ounce and you taste
They're
it
just
and you're
staring
like,
at you. I'm like, oh, no.
I've always thought about like one time just being like, no, this is rancid. Take it back. I want a different. I want a different bottle of Barefoot. You know. But yeah, as we got older, I just like it just kind of escaped. Like wine in general, it's just like it never entered, you know, my rotation. And I don't really know why. I think we got into stuff.
Yeah.
Like we got into beer. We got into bourbon.
Yeah.
Doing this show.
Even tequila, you know.
Even tequila. We have discovered shitloads of shit. And then like now I'm always like trying to experiment doing cocktails and stuff. Still though, I've never like gotten into wine.
Same here.
Yeah, but we need to.
I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, I got a fucking kick-ass story for you today.
I'm for it.
To kind of kick off our venture into wine together.
Okay.
As a show. So, but before we do that, we are broadcasting from the Brick Hous.
Brick Hous.
H-O-U-S. And you can, this is an Airbnb. You can rent these at partyhous.com, partyhous.com. And we are in the middle of the two adjoining buildings. They bought two houses and they weld them together with steel and glass.
It's awesome.
Yeah, if you're watching or if you're listening, you can watch it on YouTube and check this out. And there's like old ass brick and glass and stuff. You can look at the sun coming through.
Yeah.
I'm in a greenhouse right now, but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful greenhouse. So Central Lexington, downtown Central Lexington, Kentucky, right next to Rupp Arena. Check them out, partyhous.com. Thanks to those guys for letting us record here once again. So to jump into this, I am going to tell you a little bit, very, very, very little bit about some of these storied vineyards. Okay. You ever heard of Burgundy?
I have.
You ever heard of Bordeaux?
I have.
What are they?
They're regions in France.
God damn it, you're
See?
right. They are.
I'm smart.
That's pretty good.
I'm smart.
Oh, okay, I was gonna try to stump you right out of the gate. But there are certain regions in France that are very notable for being good wine regions. They make great wine. I guess it's the terroir. It's the love and care they put in the grapes.
It's also the laws they got passed that said that need to come from that region.
That's true too. Yeah. I sound super cynical, but that's just because
we're arsenic culture. Come on.
Yeah. Remember when we had our arsenic culture?
That's right.
So, but we're jumping in this and we're trying to figure it out. So this time, a year from now, I'll be one of these snooty guys wearing an ascot and like putting my pinky up in the air.
You'll be Fred Minnick just with wine.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So those are two of the biggest one, or two big ones, Burgundy and Bordeaux. The story I'm going to tell you today is kind of centers around Burgundy in particular. We got a bottle here to try. It's Louis Jadot 2022 Pinot Noir. Bourgogne, that's how you pronounce that. Yes, I looked it up.
I would not have known.
Yeah. I always thought it was Bourgogne.
I would have said Bourgogne.
Yeah, remember the Duchess de Bourgogne, that beer that we always drink. So, and from what I read, is if you're wanting to get into like Burgundy, this is actually a really great jumping off point. It's like food and wine magazine or Food and Something actually voted this as one of their top 10 bottles under $50 that you could
I think
get.
I was telling you too, I saw this label you brought in. My wife and I, one of the first bottles that we enjoyed, like when we were married, was a Louis Jadot brand. It was a white wine. I cannot remember which one it was, but I'll never forget that name. That cherub or whatever the hell that thing is on there.
Whenever I used to drink or get a glass in a restaurant, it was usually a Pinot Noir anyway. I do like that style. This bottle was like $22 or something like that.
Very affordable and good.
Yeah, but they
It's
had
no $2 Chuck from Trader Joe's.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but they had a bottle of Louis Jadot next to it that was like $150. So they obviously run the gamut. So there are some notable vineyards from these regions, though, that are well known for making super, super high quality wines that fetch a shitload on the secondary. Our last episode, we talked about the bourbon secondary market. You will remember that because to us, that was 4 minutes ago. But I thought this was like an interesting...
My remember's not that good anyway, so we're
That's
good.
true, yeah. But I thought that was interesting because it's like we both were familiar with the beer secondary market back when it was really popular, like 8, 9 years ago, 6 years ago. You're a little more intimately familiar with the bourbon. The wine secondary market is fucking bonkers.
Yeah.
Like the
It's all like I feel like wine's like these private entities that come together in somebody's like not like this house.
Yeah.
And you're like sitting here for 2 days and you're bidding on a 1922 Louis Jadot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something like that.
So they do. They auction them off very frequently at places like Christie's and like there's like a few other auction houses that they will sell for thousands and thousands of dollars. There was I looked it up. The highest selling bottle in auction in a private auction because they do charity stuff.
Yeah,
It's like
crazy.
when they do like Pappy Van Winkle charities and like end up raising
You're
like
spending
$1 million.
$25,000 on a $2,000 bottle. Yeah,
Exactly right. Yeah. There was one bottle of wine. I don't know where it is in my notes. I got a shitload of notes here. And I'll find it in a minute, but it was something around like over $500,000 for one bottle of wine. Yeah. And there's lots that have gone for millions of dollars.
Wow.
I say lots as in like there might have been like a few cases or something like that. Millions of fucking dollars. Like that's unheard of in bourbon, scotch, anything.
Oh yeah, they don't touch that.
Like, those like pale in comparison. So, Domaine de la Romanée Conti, I guess that's how you pronounce it. That's in Burgundy region of France. They had that bottle. It was a 1945 Romanée Conti that sold for $558,000. There it is.
I know when
in
I've seen
2018. That wasn't even that long ago.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. I know that the little I know about wine, especially red wine, is there's certain vintages of certain years. Like it might be the fall season of this. Like everything was perfect that time. Like the terroir was perfect, the climate, whatever was perfect. They really carry a high price.
You remember we did champagne? We talked about Veuve Clicquot.
Remember they had that one
The
bottle
Comet,
of
the year of the Comet. It was like 1811 or something like that. And those bottles would go for like tens of thousands of dollars. Like even now, I think it's like $150,000 if you can get
Then
a
they
bottle.
had the shipwrecked one too. Remember that one?
Yeah. That's
crazy
right.
shit.
And that's actually when you talk about wine, they actually lump champagne in with that because it is like a sparkling wine.
Type of wine.
So, but Romanée Conti is a really famous vineyard. Petrus is another one.
I've seen that.
$1,000 bottles, and then Domaine Ponceau is another really big one. They are actually going to play critically into this story. But in the early 2000s, around like 2006, there was a guy by the name of Rudy Kurniawan. It is a weird last name.
Wasn't Huxtable? Rudy Huxtable?
No, not at all. We're not allowed to say Huxtable here anymore.
That's a good point. Good point. Cross that out.
But Rudy Kurniawan was this Indonesian fellow that immigrated from Indonesia to California.
Okay.
And he was kind of enamored with the prestige of these vineyards and Burgundy, especially in red wine.
Fancy.
Yeah, it is very fancy. So he starts learning about it. He starts drinking it. He starts discovering these high-end bottles, and he gets like into more and more expensive wines. And the more he drinks, the more he discovers, the more enamored he gets with it. Turns out this kid, I guess at the time, has got like a really evolved palate. Anybody that knew him said that he had the best palate they had ever seen.
Wow.
Yeah, so he could like pick out nuances that people would like never have thought. And it's like, you know how we drink something and you're like, oh, I get this and this and this. And then the guy next to you be like, oh, I get like apple cherry. And then all of a sudden you're like, shit, that's all I get now.
Does it to me is Jordan, our buddy Jordan, man. He pulls flavors out crazy. But you're right. I mean, I do think you can train your palate with beer, bourbon, probably wine, but you either got it or you don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can train all you want, but you can't be as good as that.
Yeah,
so.
I agree. I do agree to an extent. So, but this guy comes in and he's apparently like a trust fund kid or something like that. He's got billionaire parents. They own like I can't remember, it was he said it was like a bank or something like that. But he starts getting to the point to where he's throwing house parties or just parties in general. And he's inviting a bunch of like winos over, right? And
Mad Dog 2020, Wild Irish Rose.
But it's like, do you remember how we would like, back in the beer days, when beer was popular, we would have bottle shares.
Love it.
And like,
Miss it.
And we would pull out shit that at the time it was like, oh my God, how did you get that? Yep. And like, it would have been a $25 bottle that you had to pay $250 for.
Or zombie dust.
Yeah. But it was just like that prestige about it. And then
Yep.
people would try it and then you'd compare notes, stuff like that. He would do that, but with wine. And then back then, it wasn't a $250 bottle. It was a $2,000 bottle.
Damn.
So he would hold these parties. They would have dinner. They would bring wine, or they would, he would pull out wine. And he would easily, they said he would blow through $100,000 worth of wine in one dinner. Damn. And it's just like, we
can see it though if the bottles are expensive.
You know how we do the kill shot where you see all the bottles lined up?
Yeah.
It was like that, And he would even save the bottles and be like, oh, I had this bottle was on this date, like I got the graveyard in my cellar of like all the beers that we had that we loved. So like he really like just enjoyed everything about it. And he put a shitload of money into it. Well, he ended up becoming a pretty avid collector. And then he got into auctioning. So he auctioned off, let's see here, at an auction house called Acker, Merrill and Condit. He more or less put these guys on the map. They had a little wine store in New York and they were well-to-do, whatever. They started an auction house. The guy that ran it, John, I'll remember his name here in a second.
John Philippe, I don't know.
No, he was actually an American dude. It was probably like John Smith or something like that. His last name starts with a K, but him and Rudy ended up kind of becoming buddies. And Rudy would share all these amazing wines. Rudy's like, hey, can we auction this off? He ends up like giving him a lot. A lot is like, in one auction, it looks like there was actually over 1,000 lots in this one auction.
Is a lot like, I just picture it as like a case. Is that
kind of? Could be, yeah. A lot is basically more than one.
Okay.
One bottle. So
like a bundle.
Yeah. So it'd be a case. It could be like 12 cases. Okay. You know what I mean? It is a sum of wine. So in one, not one lot, but one auction, there was actually over 1,000 lots. This one auction in 2006 sold for $24.7 million. And it was all from this one guy.
The whole auction sold for
the whole auction was from this one guy, Rudy Kurniawan. And the auction house takes like 20%, so this motherfucker's making a killing too. There was
everybody getting paid there.
Yeah, exactly. There's other big auction houses. Sotheby's, I know you've heard of them. Christie's is a big one. Zacky's is one. Spectrum Wine Auctions is another one. But
it's a cable company too.
Around here, they started up high. They're down low. Now nobody likes them. But Acker Merrill was this one that he went through, and he made them the biggest auction house for wine. Period. Because of that one auction.
Of course. Yeah. That much money floating through
exactly.
there. Yeah.
And the thing is, he just kept selling more and more. And he had like the rarest shit.
Where the hell's he getting it?
Fucking,
nobody knows.
That's what we're going to get into, right? So why don't you go ahead and open this bottle, and I'm going to get into part 2 here.
Okay.
Acker Merrill, this auction house that he's been working through. What are we on time? This auction house that he's been working through ends up putting out their new catalog. Every single time they do an auction, they put together a high-end catalog. Like, they put money into this catalog, and they fucking better because they're making 20% of however many millions they send, They
got an incentive too.
Oh yeah, 100%. So you think of like, you get like a racing form, you go to Keeneland. This is nothing like that. This is like full color, like high gloss, like thick pages.
That sounds awesome, actually.
Yeah, they got like somebody like positioning the bottles and telling them to look all sexy and stuff, getting them in the right lighting. But these are the bottles that they're actually auctioning off. So they'll show off these bottles, show off what's going to be in the auction, the starting bid and stuff like that. So like they were online. If somebody was not living in wherever they were auctioning from, which was New York, they could put in a bid online and you could actually win it that way. So this catalog gets around to this Domaine Ponceau. You remember that vineyard that I was telling you about in the Burgundy region. They're putting out bottles like Clos Saint is it Saint Denis? Denis. Clos Saint Denis, something like that.
Yes, sure.
Vintages from 1945 to 1971 for like hundreds of thousands of dollars for each of these bottles. The owner of the vineyard, Domaine Ponceau, is a gentleman by the name of Laurent Ponceau. He's family, generational. He runs the whole entire thing.
Sir, would you like to try? Would you like to try a little bit as well?
Do you need a white towel to go under?
Let's see if I can get this fine plastic cup we have.
Yeah. Do you want me to do the taste? No, stop. I gotta do the taste first, right?
You need a good taste. So.
Yeah. Let me do a little sip. Hold on.
Yeah, okay. That's good.
Tell me what you're pouring for me, sir.
Oh, this is a Pinot Noir from Burgundy.
Dude,
Louis Jadot 2022 vintage.
You sound straight like
this is honestly the best thing we have in our place.
You're right now.
It is. Like, it's the best thing we have here.
You sound like a straight professional
for
sommelier.
Sure. Yeah, I'm a sommelier. I'm a sommelier.
Sommelier.
It's fantastic.
Sir, this is utter garbage. Can you please take it back and get me
Yeah,
something
we'll get you some more. Let me see it. Let me see your cup there. Let's see here. Let me take that back. Here, I got you some fresh.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's all I needed. Thank you so much. Yeah. So anyways, somebody that knows Laurent Ponceau from Domaine Ponceau gets his catalog, and he's like, they got bottles of Laurent Ponceau's Clos Saint Denis from 1945 to 1971.
Sounds expensive?
It was expensive. He showed Laurent Ponceau, and he's like, does this look weird to you? Laurent Ponceau looks at his catalog, and he's like, that's funny. We didn't even make that wine that year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he's like, instead of calling the auction house, instead of like raising a stink, he says, fuck that. He buys a plane ticket and flies directly to New York immediately.
Oh, he knows. Okay.
So he could go to the auction. Oh, yeah. It was fucking crazy. He said that bottle wasn't actually made until 1982, and the labels very distinctly said all the way from 1945 to 1971. So he goes down there, they hold the auction, and in the middle of the fucking auction where they're doing like the little paddles and stuff, and they hold it up, stuff like that, the guy from Acromerrill is up there doing the auction. Laurent Ponceau is sitting in the back of the auction house. He just stands up and he says, I demand you take my wines off that auction block immediately. And fucking everybody goes dead quiet. And people I guess people kind of knew who he was, but they weren't. And he just came in from his vineyard in France.
Wow.
And immediately the Acromerrill guy's just like, all right, hold on, let's take a beat here. They shut it down. He took it off. He was like, okay, let's hear what he has to say. And they just completely rescinded the entire auction.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it was fucking crazy.
That's millions of dollars too coming there.
Yeah. Laurent Ponceau goes and he starts trying to get information on where these bottles came from, okay? They asked the auctioneer, he says it came from Rudy Kurniawan. He gets his contact information, meets with Rudy, he's like, Rudy, these bottles shouldn't exist. They're obviously counterfeit. Where did you get these bottles from? And he's like, I buy so many fucking bottles, I can't keep track of it, but I will find it for you, okay? Kind of goes back and forth. He can't get any concrete information for a month and a half. So he ends up going back to France.
I can see that though if you're buying that much bulk.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. As many bottles as he's moving, that is his job. He's probably got records and it takes a while. So it's a month and a half is kind of long.
Because that's how you get good deals on great stuff, right? You buy bulk.
Exactly right. Yeah, and especially the high end stuff.
Yeah.
And that's how Rudy did his business. He would actually go to auctions back before they were really skyrocketing, and he would buy everything.
Damn.
Literally buy everything, wait a few years, mark it up, and resell it. And that's kind of how he made a lot of his money.
Smart.
So a month and a half later, he finally sends an email back to Laurent Ponceau, and he says, okay, I got your name and I got your phone number. Rudy gives Laurent Ponceau 2 phone numbers and a name. Ponceau calls both phone numbers. One of them is a dial tone, or not a dial tone, but it's the fax number, like we call fax, and it gives you that weird kind of feedback.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even an actual landline. The other one, nobody picks up, okay? So he does a little bit of digging, and he's like, the fax number was actually to Lion Air, which is an air, like American Airlines.
Okay.
Yeah, they actually do commercial and residential flights or whatever. That was their fax machine. The other phone number was to a strip mall in Indonesia. Just some old
call center.
Yeah, I mean, it was a hardware store, some shit like that. It was so random. So he's like, okay, fuck this. He flies to Indonesia. He finds where those places are, and he's like, that's not right. The name he got was...
this guy's taking it serious.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because it's like his shit that somebody's peddling, and they're selling for millions of dollars. The name that he got was Pakhendra, Pakhendra, okay? So he starts asking around. The name that he got, he couldn't find anybody that knew that name, but Laurent Ponceau, being of wealthy descent, knew a lot of wealthy people, and that knew wealthy people that knew wealthy people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he was like, hey, can you give me some contacts in Indonesia? He starts talking to people. They're like, okay, I don't know anybody by that name, but I'll tell you this. Pak means Mr. And Hendra is the Indonesia equivalent of Smith. So he gave
Mr. Smith.
He basically gave him the name of Mr. Smith.
Oh, wow.
So like red flags start to go off. Laurent Ponceau, he's like, I'm on like a wild goose chase.
So our boy Rudy.
So right around the same time, there's a billionaire named Bill Koch.
Okay.
Do you know who that is?
Nope.
I don't either.
Is it Koch?
K-O-C-H.
I know the family name.
Huge wealthy family,
Very wealthy.
generational wealth. It's funny, I watched a documentary on this. This was so interesting. They actually put out an hour and a half documentary. You can watch it on YouTube. It's called Sour Grapes. It's really interesting.
I know what it's. Okay, I'm following.
So
that.
Bill Koch, they actually interviewed him.
Okay.
He's an older guy. It's funny because when they would interview people in this documentary, they would list like their occupation. His occupation was collector. Like
entrepreneur.
You know you got fucking money when your job is I buy things. Like I'm not even a philanthropist. I just buy shit and I put it away. You know what I mean?
That's what I want to be when I grow up.
Yeah. But they talked to Bill Koch and they looked in his cellar, amazing wine cellar. He's got like a hidden panel in some faux brick with like a security code you put in there, open a locked cage and shit like that. But you go in there, it looks like old school, like brick arches and stuff like that. He said he's got like 22,000 bottles of wine, hundreds of millions of dollars down there in wine. He spent hundreds of millions of dollars and just puts this wine away. He drinks it too.
Damn.
He doesn't sell it. He's just so wealthy, he just buys all this shit, right? Around that same, he's actually, I'm just now reading my notes. He's American. I didn't even realize he was an American.
Yeah, because it's the Koch brothers. Koch. I don't know how you say them.
Maybe.
There's a few of them. There's like a conglomerate.
He was like the founder of Oxbow Carbon and Energy Development Company. Have you heard of them?
No, that's not surprising.
No, but he collects art. He collects all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
He caught wind that there might have been some issue with the integrity of some of the bottles that were being auctioned off, and he participated in a lot of these auctions. He hired his own guy. He called him a bulldog. I forget his name here, but this guy goes through and he ends up becoming the authenticator, so to speak. And he goes through Bill Koch's entire collection, and he tries to like spot which ones are fakes and which ones are real. And he finds like $10 million worth of bottles that are fake, maybe even 20 million. Now it's funny because
it's probably like 200 to me and you.
Exactly. A guy like Bill Koch, honestly, he's thinking like, that sucks.
Yeah.
But he's still like, he's a collector, right?
Yeah.
Quote unquote. He's like one of these old guys that it's retired. He's got nothing to spend his time on. So he's like, you know what? Fuck whoever did that. So he starts to do his own digging. And he's like, where did these bottles come from? Turns out they came from Acker Merrill during an auction from Rudy Kurniawan's $26 million auction. He bought a lot of those bottles, and then he discovered a lot of them were counterfeit. So he starts launching his own investigation. So now you got Laurent Ponceau, and you got who owns the Ponceau
the
winery, and you got Bill Koch, a billionaire who's been defrauded, and they're both trying to figure out where all these bottles are coming from, and it's zeroing in on
Do
Rudy
they know
Kurniawan.
each other's doing it yet? Okay.
No idea whatsoever.
That'd be cool if they were.
Yeah, I was actually waiting for like the foot
Team
to drop.
up.
Yeah. And it was just like you see that in like a movie with like, The Rock teams up with like.
The enemy, my enemy's my enemy, or something like that. I don't know.
Exactly
Enemy,
right.
my friends, man. I don't know.
Yeah. So while these two entities are looking into this, Rudy Kurniawan is still selling wine. He's still selling it from auctions. Acker Merrill has basically banned him because he has caught so much flack now from the community. Rudy goes to these other auction houses I was telling you about, like Christie's and stuff like that.
Whatever.
Sotheby's. Christie's, I think they put something up. They ended up pulling it down too. The other auction house, Spectrum, that we said is probably akin to our cable company, they were like still selling his wine, still putting out the catalogs. He had been red flagged by multiple people as like having put out possible fakes at this point. Spectrum wouldn't take the auctions down. They left them up. They were knowingly...
Because they're getting that cut.
They were getting that cut, exactly. But it was brought to their attention that these are counterfeit bottles by the community, mind you.
Yeah.
But people were, like, in droves were saying, like, these are counterfeit bottles. You need to remove that auction. Spectrum refused to do it because they're still trying to make money. So Rudy's still selling bottles and still, like, making money in the meantime. But the community ended up taking on this as, like, a task in and of itself. It ended up becoming so big that the federal government caught wind of it.
Oh, wow.
So
maybe taxes and shit, too.
The FBI started looking into this. And it's kind of, I don't want to say weird, but it's just like, this is very much a white-collar crime.
100%.
Yeah, he's not laundering money for human trafficking.
Yep.
He's not burying dead bodies in foundations of buildings. Like, he's
not even
selling
avoiding taxes, really, because
no,
I mean,
he's selling wine. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's selling wine. The thing is, they're still paying taxes
Yeah.
on it. Granted, it's for millions and millions and millions of dollars, but I mean, technically speaking, he's not really hurting anybody. Even the people that are buying it, like Bill Koch, like this is a write-off to him. They have so much money in it, and they have so much money, period. They just don't give a fuck. But still, the FBI is like, all right, we need to look into this. They start doing some digging. They start doing some research. They ended up finding out that his family in Indonesia never had $1 billion business. He was never a trust fund kid. They're actually all broke. He has two brothers. I forget their names, but one brother is a fugitive on the run from the law. He committed the largest bank robbery in Jakarta history.
Wow.
He robbed a bank. He got arrested, went to jail, fucking escaped from jail. And at the time of this, they still hadn't caught him, okay? Rudy's other brother worked at a bank. He might have ran the bank. He ended up embezzling money from that bank, and he got in trouble for that too. Like, this is his lineage.
Yeah.
This is what he really is. They never had money. They're just a family of crooks.
Trouble follows him.
And now all of a sudden they're like, okay, where did he get this wine? Sounds like, everything's starting to zero in on exactly who he is. The FBI puts together a raid to take him down. Rudy has got like a $30 million mansion in LA. He's got a bunch of properties, but he still has this one small house in Arcadia. It looked like in the documentary that I watched, it kind of looked like it's a slum, which in California is still $1 million fucking house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like here in Lexington, Kentucky, it would have been a $180,000 house, right? So they go up, they knock on the door, they're like, FBI, come in, he won't answer. FBI, come in, he won't answer. They get ready to ram the fucking door down, And he finally comes in, they're like, it looked like he just got out of bed. They go into his house, they found thousands of wine labels. They found like pounds and pounds of wax to wax bottles.
Yeah.
They found like hundreds of empty bottles. They found de-aging kits, like stuff to make the bottles look old and dirty, to make them look vintage. They found like a whole bunch of like other wine. They said they only found like 3 or 4 filled bottles, but they were vintage wine filled bottles. They found like pages and pages and like books of notes on how to mix certain wines to make them taste like vintage wines. This motherfucker created an operation to sell all of this shit secondhand and make millions of dollars on it.
And he would have got away with it if he hadn't.
It weren't for these damn kids.
Fucked up that date. Yeah, Scooby Doo.
Yeah. The one thing that they like, even Laurent Ponceau said, I can't really put my finger on, is like he ended up selling like I think 15,000 bottles of wine.
Wow.
The amount of time and effort you have to put into each bottle to make it look vintage and make it look authentic, and to have gotten away with it for as many years as he did would take hours. He's like, it's literally impossible to do that for 15,000 bottles. So they think he had help. They still don't know who would have helped him if he did.
Makes you wonder too, like, thinking as a criminal here, hypothetically, but you think you'd like slip a few in. Like, if you had a lot of 30 bottles, not all 30 of them's fake, like put in 12 fake ones, you know what I mean?
I guess, but again, at the same time, if nobody's onto you.
It's a good point. Maybe he did that at first, but honestly, I bet a lot of people never opened the bottles. Really?
Some of them didn't, some of them did.
Yeah.
So like, I think at first he probably started out with real bottles. And then, because remember I said in the beginning, he was saving all his bottles?
Yep.
He was saving vintage bottles and repackaging them.
That's what people did in bourbon too.
Yeah, people do that in beer too. People do everywhere. But like to this scale, it's absolutely insane. I think they said at the end of the day, he made somewhere between $30 and $50 million selling secondhand fake wine at auctions. The ironic part was that he filed bankruptcy years before this. He was in debt like out of his ass.
It was
like
a $30 million house.
Yeah, he was so in debt, like he just could not handle his money. It sounded a lot like, do you remember that movie with Catch Me If You Can with Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yeah, it was a good movie.
With the check writing scandal. Yeah, it kind of sounded a lot like that. Like it was just a guy that was like, I'm going to hustle these people, and nobody really got hurt. But he was still a criminal, you know? And it's like, even by today's standards, that guy, the real guy, is kind of seen as like a folk hero.
Yeah, for sure.
There's some people that kind of see Rudy as that same way, but I don't really know.
Is he still in jail?
So he went to jail in 2000, let's see here. He was raided in 2012. In 2014, he was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. He actually just got out. He served 7 years. So he got out in 2020.
Okay.
In 2021, he was deported. There's a get the fuck out of here. The only reason he was over here is because he had a student visa. It was expired the entire time he was here.
But like, with that clientele he's running with, nobody checking it. You
exactly.
know what I mean?
Yeah, he was hobnobbing with everybody. So ended up kind of being a piece of shit. But the funny thing is, at the end of the day,
he had a hell of a time for a while though.
The kind of lesson, the moral to this story,
don't get caught.
Don't get caught. Is this? There was this very surreal moment in that documentary, Sour Grapes, I was watching. They were interviewing some of the guys that he was hanging out with. There's this one guy, they call him Hollywood Jeff. Super wealthy guy. He's a Hollywood film director. I'd never heard of him before, but apparently he makes movies. He makes a lot of money. He's bought high-end wines for the past 30, 40 years. He met Rudy, started drinking with him, and he vouched for Rudy even throughout the entire movie. He even the documentary, he starts talking about how good friends they were, how good of a person he was. He's like, I still don't think Rudy could have done this. He's like, I think he maybe had some bottles, but I think by and large, a lot of this stuff was legitimate. At the end of this documentary, it was hilarious. They show clips of this Hollywood Jeff riding with another guy in a limo, drinking wine in the back of the limo. They showed it at the beginning, they showed it a couple times in the middle, they showed it at the end of the documentary. And you see where it's going. By the end, they get out of this limo, they're holding a bottle of wine and a glass in each hand. They go into some like wine shop or something like that. There's a sommelier on hand, wine expert, right? And they got the documentary crew following them. And they pull out this bottle that was like a $10,000 bottle of wine. They're sharing it. And the two guys and Hollywood Jeff and this other guy are like, you got to taste this. This is absolutely amazing. They give it to some hot chick off camera. She's like, oh yeah, it's really good. You can tell they're just trying to hit on her, right? And then the sommelier, they hand it to him. He's like, you've got to try the bouquet on this. It's amazing. He looks at it, he sniffs it, and he's like, how long has that bottle been open? Finance bro guy's like, maybe like a couple hours. And he drinks it. He puts it down. He goes, that's absolute garbage. And they kind of look at each other and like, he's like, what? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I'm intimately familiar with that vintage and that particular wine. I've had it 100 times.
And that ain't it.
And he's like, I'll tell you exactly what it tastes like. And he ran it off notes. He actually said, he was like, if you've ever had a really well-built BLT with an egg on it, he's like, there's a feeling you get when you eat that. He's like, that's the kind of like feeling you get when you like, the umami of it is like from this wine. He's like, I get nothing. He's like, this is acrid. It tastes young and it's just horrible. And you can see Hollywood Jeff just kind of like shrink a little bit. You ever seen that Reddit where it's like watch people die inside?
Yeah.
It's just like clips of people just like, he was like, he just like shriveled down into like a little person. And then some guy off camera was like, how many bottles of, it was Rudy stuff? Yeah. He's like, how many bottles of that do you have? He goes, like 6. And Finance Bro goes, more like 6,000, you dumbass. It was fucking amazing. But the moral is just like, these people that buy this expensive shit, they don't want it to be fake, even if it is. It's like, it's all a mental thing. They want the cachet, they want the prestige of saying that they have it. So even with it, when it is fake, they will pretend that it's real as fuck, just so they can hand it off to that hot chick and be like, you're drinking a $10,000 bottle of wine, 100%. Baby. What do you think of me now? Like, that's all it is. For the most part, I think.
No, I get it. I believe that.
Yeah.
I've seen it in beer too. I mean, not necessarily the fake stuff, but like, something tastes like shit.
Yeah.
Here, try this. And then somebody's like, oh, that tastes good. You're like, no, it don't.
No, it doesn't. Not at all. Yeah. What do you think of this wine?
I think it's good. Really good. It actually got a little better as it opened up too, sitting there for a minute.
Yeah. We need to, I'm not even going to try to dissect this.
No.
We need to get into more into it. Yeah, this is pretty good. Yeah,
I'd buy it.
This is Burgundy. Yeah, I'd spend $22 on this. Yeah.
Is this fake? Did you get me?
I repackaged this $22 bottle with $8 wine.
you spent three hours making it.
You see, like I meticulously handmade this foil.
Really good. That's a really good job.
Bought from on an online seller. So yeah, crazy fucking story.
That is a story. I've heard of
Biggest
that
wine
documentary. That's pretty
history.
cool.
Yeah, check it out. Sour Grapes is the documentary, and it's free on YouTube.
Yeah.
You can just watch it. So, you got anything else?
No, I'm good. Thanks for the wine.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, enjoy your $8 wine.
I will.
Yeah. If you guys enjoy this, please share it. If you didn't, then keep drinking until you do. For more Arsenic Culture, you can check us out on all the socials. We are at Arsenic Culture.
Like and subscribe on YouTube.
And we'll see you on the next one.